Hello Internet, I'm the Disney Brain and welcome to the Girl Meets World Review. Last time, we talked about the conclusion of the Ski Lodge two-parter, and hopefully, but maybe not actually, the end of the ship war. This time around, Katie and Shawn are tying the knot after what feels like, well, not very long actually. Spoiler warning now, you know the drill. With all that said, let's dive into Girl Meets I Do. We start things off at the bay window, where Maya is questioning the legitimacy of this wedding, seeing as how it marks that a good thing is happening to her, and she doesn't trust that. Riley, of course, has the exact opposite opinion on the whole ordeal, but that shouldn't really surprise anyone. Even with Katie and Shawn seemingly awestruck with each other, Maya still isn't convinced that what they have will last, and if you know about what she's been through with her biological father, then it all makes sense here. Her perspective on the legitimacy of love, marriage, and once again, change, carries the entire narrative of this episode, in an episode that doesn't have a ton of plot outside of what the title suggests, in addition to leaving the other members of the main six out completely. This provides us with a couple of genuine Maya moments, and since we're already well versed on just how good Sabrina can work through the emotional material, it's always a treat to watch. This episode also gives us some great Cory and Shawn moments again, which are always welcome for the Boy Meets World fans among us. So, the episode gets to a point where Maya is trying to actively cancel the wedding, because there's no way to ensure that anything that happens will last. Which is true, and a big part of growing up is realizing that sometimes even great things can't last, despite the best intentions. Marriage is all about taking leaps, as the show wisely describes, and embracing the unknown, hoping things will turn out for the best. It's been a long road for Katie since Kermit happened and then stopped happening, and an even longer road for Shawn, but both of them find themselves ready to take that leap together. This leads to the rooftop setting where the wedding will take place, and Shawn makes mention of the man that will be marrying them. I wonder who that could be. So the wedding starts up, and Augie and Ava are given a few funny lines, and
Mr. Feeney! Mr. Feeney? Mr. Feeney! Feeney? Ow! Hey, what?
good old George Feeney to handle the ceremonies. So, Maya, after some struggles with the idea, finally agrees to this marriage, which symbolizes her taking the same leap of faith as both of the two newlyweds. It's kind of a shame that we couldn't get Turner back for something as important as Shawn's wedding, but I guess we'll just have to wait until the season 3 finale to see him and Shawn interact again. And that's Girl Meets I Do. Not too much actually happened in this one, but the episode worked well with what it had. The only thing it really needed to convey properly was Maya's expected resistance to change and understandable hesitance to trust something as good as this happening to her, in addition to Riley's classic counterposition. Outside of that, it had kind of a Boy Meets World feel about it, similar to Girl Meets Upstate, since a lot of the focus was naturally placed upon the pair getting married. Heck, Mr. Feeney even makes a joke about Shawn's usually late assignments, so all of it worked in terms of feel, but did it function well? The Maya aspects certainly did, because we all know a lot about her character, but since we as the audience have spent every episode with her, to varying degrees, and not nearly as many episodes of Shawn and Katie, Maya's position feels more justified because not even we know the true depths to which they love each other because we don't see them together all that often. Now, does that mean that the marriage was a rushed one? Well, maybe. The proposal certainly wasn't, and I explained back in Girl Meets Upstate why the proposal functions well despite us not having spent the greatest amount of time with Shawn and Katie as a couple. But the marriage itself could have waited until we've seen the pair go through a genuine struggle together, maybe help solve something Maya's going through together, or test them by giving one of them a fair reason to not get married way beforehand and see how their relationship holds up as a direct result. We as the audience are told to have faith and trust in the love they share. That's what Maya gains from all of this. But honestly, Maya's dynamic with Shawn is more developed than his relationship with the woman he claims to love more than anyone, even Cory. They probably will go through some of the points I mentioned and more during their marriage, but as far as I'm concerned, the I do's would have felt much more earned if they saved it for a season finale after we see them as a couple for a bit longer. There's something to be said for Shawn's reckless spontaneity, but I think there's a bit more to be said for pacing things out a bit more on that front. I don't want to take too much away from a nice episode, and it's always great to have Mr. Feeney back, but between not having a lot of cast members there for a wedding of all things, and having all of this occur just a few months at most after the proposal, something just felt missing from this one that could have made it feel that much better than it already did. I like this episode, but I think it is kind of an issue that the show developed Evan more than they developed Shawn and Katie after the events of Upstate. All in all, this episode feels like one that should have been saved for a later time. We didn't really need Shawn and Katie to get married right away, and as I mentioned, it would have meant a lot more if they had gone through more in between saying yes and saying I do. It's still a good episode, but when you have something as monumental as marriage on the line, you don't want to settle for just good, or just an episode that captures some great emotional moments and answers a lot of tough emotional questions. It should have been more than good. It should have been special, not just as a moment on the show, but as a well-developed plot point driven by past developments. It kind of felt like Girl Meets STEM to an extent, where the episode was so obviously trying to be something very important and meaningful, but didn't quite put all the pieces in the right place, so it became somewhat meaningful, but not as great as it could have been. But I suspect that the upcoming episode will have the show back in form with Girl Meets Real World, where human nature itself will be up for debate, and only a week-long wait for that. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this review, go ahead and throw it on a like, subscribe for more, and share it everywhere. And don't forget to follow the Disney Brain on Facebook and Twitter for updates. Links down below. I couldn't quite get the mystery DCOM review done as early as I wanted to, so it'll come later this week, and then I'll try to get the Twitches review done before the next Girl Meets World review. Then, we're diving back into the top, as we count down the top 10 best DCOM lead acting performances, so lots to look forward to. Until then...
What's the matter, Eva? It just reminds me of our wedding. It's their time now, darling. We lived our lives.